With me today is my good friend and my financial advisor, Jenny Brown. And Jen is a financial advisor and director at JBS Financial Strategist with more than 3 decades of experience guiding people to build their wealth and guide them through one of life's biggest transitions, which is retirement. She is the author of Retirement, The Great Escape Plan, where she brings together financial strategy and lived experience to help people move beyond uncertainty and design a retirement that actually works for them. So, welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Julie. I'm super excited to be here.
I am too. And congratulations on your book. It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had super feedback. It's been great. So it's probably exceeded every expectation that I thought in the early days because it's only been released for a month. So
Yeah.
it's pretty new.
Very new. So tell me, what made you write the book now? So what were you seeing that potentially concerned you, or you thought, I really need to get this out there now?
Yeah. Interesting question. So probably as long as you've known me, people have said to me, you've got a book in you, you should write a book. Like, you talk to so many clients, you've got so many stories, why don't you write a book? And I kept thinking, well, what am I going to write a book on? Because there's, everyone writes books, and there's heaps of business books, and there's heaps of financial planning books. And so I did a course pre-COVID and on being an author and how to put a book together in terms of structure and stuff like that. And it sort of sat with me. And then last year I started writing something, and then I got to probably, two-thirds of the way through it. And I was talking to our marketing manager at JBS, and I just said, I hate it. And she said to me, why? And I said, because it's just too technical, and nobody wants to talk about spreadsheets, and no one wants to look at, balance sheets and all of that sort of stuff. And I think I need to rip all of that technical stuff out, because anyone can Google that now and ask, ChatGPT or Copilot, and you don't always get the right answer, by the way, but you can always ask those sort of questions. And so I said to her, I think what I need to do is probably pull something together and put, based around client stories, because that's what tends to resonate with people and with readers. And I need to have like almost an evergreen, so that if the super caps go up, you don't have to go and change it and stuff like that. So so that's what I did. And then it's sort of come to life from there.
It's definitely come to life. It is such an awesome read, and I love how you've injected, as you say, so many stories into it, but you've made it fun. You take people on a little roadmap through your book, which I absolutely love. So can you walk us through that? Let us know what they're called, because I think it's genius. And where you see people often gets the most stuck.
Yeah. Good question. So it's I love the real, the little roadmap, and we made it really fun because part of the JBS ethos is to have fun. And so we wanted to make sure that people knew that, retirement is still having fun. So that's why fun is being injected all the way through. We wanted to make it easy and lighthearted, but the little roadmap sort of tries to take you through the stages in terms of starting from your Great Escape Plan. So building the foundations, having that spending plan or budget, whatever you want to call it. Yes, you might have to pull out the spreadsheets and stuff like that. So it talks about that and the postcard. Then the next phase is the retirement now loading. So please wait. So it's going through those different phases of retirement. What do you need to be looking for, your purpose, that side of things, into the, we're retired now. So there's no boss, no alarm, no problem, because we can still make it all work. And then the final one, which is probably my favourite, and that's the wisdom wrinkles and winning at bingo. So that's really, as we start all getting a bit older, and we start finding that we've got health issues, or we've got our partner's got health issues, and so but we've got all this knowledge and wealth, but how do we actually get to the next stage, and what do we do? Because anyone who's actually ever been through aged care or any of that side of things for their partner or their parents knows that it's a minefield and a whole lot of complexity.
Yep. Spoken from experience for both of us.
Correct.
We are talking about that. And I love how your book sort of covers off on everything. And at the start, the postcard to your retirement, I think, is so good. And that really inspired me. Like, I've known you for 20 years and I work with you, but reading things from a different perspective, I found really enlightening, and it's really inspired me to be excited about my retirement, which I really wasn't. Like, I'm like, I don't want to retire. Like, I just don't want to go into a life where I'm not doing anything. And of course, it doesn't have to be like that. So there's so much gold in there that you can start thinking about now, like well before your retirement. And you encourage people to do that, right?
Absolutely. So, it's the old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? When's the next best time today? And it doesn't matter how far in the future you're actually looking. And it's the same about retirement. Look, for those in their 20s and 30s, it probably is a bit younger. But anyone that's, 40 plus, and definitely once you get into your 50s, you should be thinking about retirement, But retirement's not stopping what you're doing. It's, as one of our clients, calls it phase 3. So it's really creating that third phase, because after all, you don't want to be like one of our clients said a little while ago to me. His father retired at 60 to the couch, and he expected his grandkids to come around and keep him occupied. Well, by the time they got to 15, they didn't want to be doing that. So that's not, to me, that's not what retirement should be. Retirement should be something that you're really looking forward to. It should be planned with purpose, and there should be some sort of structure, because after all, we've been through, you don't have to be, 9 to 5 structure, but we've been through 40 plus years of working, and we've had structure in our lives. So it is very difficult from going from that structure as such, whatever it happens to be, and every occupation has different structure, to doing nothing or having no structure. And I think that's where a lot of people come unstuck, is that they don't think about what they're going to do, and they don't plan to make sure that they keep themselves occupied.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. So I just want to go back and touch on the last part of your book just really quickly, which is what you said about the aged care. And my sister and I could not have navigated that without your help. Like, it is, you said complexity. It's like complexity on steroids. It's like they don't want you to understand. When you're just someone who probably doesn't have the real appetite to understand. I'm talking about myself, but it's just so hard to know what to do. So your lived experience through that and your knowledge of the system, and I'm glad that you did include it in your book, is just so valuable, because a lot of us are going to go through that stage, and it's tough on so many levels. It's not just the physical stuff you have to do for your parents, it's the mental load, and then trying to navigate the government. And so that is a real valuable part of the book, which is at the back, but it's not sort of less valuable than every other part of it.
And it's obviously at the back because it's theoretically the end of the roadmap as such, So it's that sort of where I logically felt that it belonged. But it, as you say, it is so important. Having gone through with no experience, my father, and we needed to put him into respite because my mum had to go and have a small operation, and then he ended up staying in there. So I had that experience, and then obviously going through with mum, and by then I'd become an aged care specialist. So I knew from a financial planning point of view, I knew the numbers, I knew how that worked. But
Yeah.
of course, it's then the emotional side, and
Mm.
that's the really tough bit.
Yeah.
And we really encourage clients to take a breath, to
Mm.
stop, to really think about what they're going through, what's best for mum or dad
Mm.
or their partner or whoever it is, and then go and explore, but not to race in. So we were talking in the office a couple of weeks ago, and Peter, one of the advisors, was saying that he was referred to somebody, but they'd raced in and they'd done all this stuff and paid bonds and stuff like that without actually really realizing what they were doing. You can't unwind that sort of stuff. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. So it's better to sit back and take your time and seek advice, or make sure you've done your homework beforehand
Mm.
so that you're not racing in and doing stuff,
Yes.
because you've got the financial side of things, you've
Yeah.
got the emotional side of things. Then if mum or dad doesn't want to go into care, you've got the guilt, you've got it's just,
I know.
there's
It's
so
so
much,
much.
there
It's
is
so
so
much.
much to unpack,
Yes.
and you often have it in such a short period of time. Mum's had a
Yeah.
fall, or dad's had a fall, and they can't stay at home. They
Yeah.
can't live by themselves. And so, basically the government step in and go, "Meh, they're not going home, they're in hospital. You better find somewhere for them to go."
Yeah.
And they don't want them, hospitals don't want them taking up beds. So you've got to do something pretty quickly.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And it happens very fast.
It does happen very fast, yes. Time is
Yes,
often of the essence,
it
but
is.
take a breath.
Yes.
I encourage everybody just to take a breath before they go and jump in on something.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to retirement. Is there a common mistake that people make with their retirement?
I think, yes, I'm not going to say everybody, but the vast majority of those looking to retire, they come into our office and they say, how much do I need? So that's not necessarily the right place to start. It's a great question, but it's usually, we then try and unpack it backwards and say, well, what's your purpose? What do you want to do? What's important to you in life? What's your day look like today? What do you think your day or your week's going to look like when you do give up work? What are you going to be doing? And then we go back into the numbers. So once we've got some of that, I'm going to say the non-financial side of things sorted.
Mm,
Some people might want to travel for
mm,
12 months of the year. Excuse me. Other people will go, no, I'm over travel. I've done enough of it for work or whatever. I want to play golf, but you can't play golf 7 days a week.
mm.
So it's a matter of understanding what the purpose is of each individual person that's looking at retiring, and then working backwards to say, right, what are you spending today? Everyone hates the word budget, so we try not to use the word budget. So what's your spending plan? What are you spending today?
Mm.
What do you envisage that you'll want to spend when you're retired? Now, often people go, oh, well, I won't need to spend as much. Well, we find that in the first 10 to 15 years, you actually spend as much and sometimes more, especially those that want to travel. So
Mm.
you've got a lot of your travel things, you're fit, you're healthy, you've got a lot of a lot of time to be able to do the hobbies and to join the golf club and to do that sort of stuff. And so you need to be able to build that into your retirement plan, at least in the first 10 to 15 years, and then that might taper off after that. But it's really unpacking the purpose, the what you want to do, and everyone's, different, and then going back to the numbers of what you're spending, and from there we can then calculate, well, if you had a lump sum of X and let's assume it's sitting inside super, that's what it will generate.
Yeah.
And yep, you're not going to run out of money, or your money's going to last till you're 100, or you know what, you are going to start relying on some age pension from 80 or 90
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. So when we're talking about like the transition to retirement, which I think is a really important component, because so many people's identities are wrapped up at work. So it's attached to their role and what they've done. I think particularly with men, speaking generally. So what tends to unravel when that's no longer there that people really need to take into consideration?
Yeah. So, and you're right. I think as females, we tend to talk more with our friendship
Mm,
groups, our girlfriends. And so there's more of that awareness of what you're likely to go through. Men as a whole, and I have a number of clients who are exceptions to this rule, but as a whole, they tend not to want to talk about it. Or they don't know how to talk about it. And so as my client's father did, they often retire to the couch,
mm,
and because they don't actually have a purpose, and they're not necessarily prepared to get out and build networks, because often their networks are, and their purpose and their identity has been work. Because if you've been doing that for 40 years, then that's often who you are as
mm,
a person in your mind, and that's how you see that. And so it's then unpacking that to then find something else that can replace work. It might be volunteering for Rotary. It might be going and doing Meals on Wheels. It might be going and visiting the old people's home, because I mean they love the visitors. It can be a whole lot of different things, but it's really finding what's important to you at that stage of your life,
mm,
and but not locking yourself into that if you don't want to. So I've got some clients that they volunteer at Fair Share and stuff like that, but they love the travel. So it's a almost a week to week. Next week or the next 2 weeks I can volunteer, but then I can't for a month after that. So a
mm,
lot of charities understand this, and so therefore they welcome those that give some idea of some structure, but they're not locking people into having to be there every Monday or Tuesday or whatever day it happens to be.
mm. Yes, that's great. And so, do you see the people who are genuinely enjoying their retirement, is that something that they've been really good at implementing into their life?
Mm, yeah, those that it's almost those that are doing it. It's terrible. I don't want to say doing it best, but those that we see are loving life are the ones
Yeah.
that have brought a system or a rhythm or a routine into their life. And
Yes.
it's I can think of a lot of clients, who they have. One day might be grandparents' day, one day might be gym day, one day might be tennis day, 2 or 3 days might be golf days. So there's also then they've got a place for Rotary or for volunteering or for something else. So there is that rhythm. I mean, we have recorded in our CRM, what days to call clients and what days not to. I've got a client that plays bridge on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Don't go and try and book in a time to catch up on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. It's not going to work. So and that's really awesome, because that's what she loves doing. She's got a
Mm,
fabulous network and friendship group around playing bridge, and so that works for her. And
yes,
you know, albeit to her, I mean, bridge is such a complicated card game that well done. I tried to learn it once
exactly.
and I went, no. But that's that rhythm and that routine is really important. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a 24-hour, locked in time. It just needs to be a purpose and create those groups. And there's plenty of groups out there that will welcome new members.
Yes. And if there's ever a time to be living a life you love, it's this period of time when you can be living life on your terms pretty much. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So for people in their 40s and 50s now, what do you think is the key thing they should be considering so they're not caught off guard later?
I think it's starting to plan. Knowing what, we call it a financial freedom number. So knowing what your financial freedom number is, what are you spending? And so therefore, what is the lump sum that you're going to need to pull the pin and know that you are going to be comfortable in retirement and have the ability to fund what you want to fund? So for some clients, and we often get, well, how much is enough? Well, you've got ask for figures that say that, 700,000, but I don't know, you generate a 5% income and there's 35 grand. Yes, you'll get some pension, but is that really enough? I'm not so sure. So, then other clients, $1 million is what they want. Other clients, it's $2 million. So work out what that number is, then make the most of things like your superannuation. So maximising concessional contributions as long as it makes financial sense. So it depends on what your income is, but maximising that or putting away money so that you've got that money in retirement, obviously balancing it up with paying down a loan. So you don't want to have non-deductible debt and then saving for the future. That doesn't necessarily work. You want a nice balance, but it's really understanding where you're going and what your plan, having a plan, having that roadmap and having a plan.
Yes, the roadmap. So if there's one shift in thinking you want people to make about retirement, what would it be, Jenny Brown?
I think it's to stop thinking of it as an end. So retirement's not an end. It's not a finish. It's not a sprint to the finish line. It's actually a transition to the next phase, to the next part of your life. It's then what do you want that to be and what do you want it to look like? So it's then having that purpose. It's the redesign of when you're 60 or 65, you've still got 30 years, 40 years left. It's a third of your life or 50% again of your life. You want to make the most of it. So it's having an idea of what you want to do and that purpose. So redesigning it is what I would say.
Redesign. I love it. And I'm going to be sharing the links in terms of how people can get in touch with you and to grab a copy of your book. And I can honestly say, and I'm not just saying that because Jenny is my friend, it is such an epic book. And I genuinely love it. And I have bookmarked a lot of the pages to take action for myself and my hubby. So it's so good, Jen. So congratulations. And thank you so much for being part of Leading You.
Thanks for the invitation and I've loved it.